First observer Nera stood before the High Council of the Meridian Collective, her crystalline form refracting the pale blue light of the chamber. The data streams from her recent survey of the Sol system projected behind her, highlighting the third planet, Earth. Distinguished Council, I stand before you with news of a peculiar civilization. Naira began, her voice resonating through the chamber's perfect acoustics. The humans of Earth represent an anomaly in our understanding of species development. The council members shifted in their biomechanical chairs, their crystalline forms catching the light. First speaker Alphas leaned forward, his ancient form darkening with interest. Explain, observer. They achieved spaceflight mere centuries after discovering electricity. Their technological progression defies all known models of civilizational development. Naira paused, allowing the significance to sink in. Yet they remain confined to their solar system, their technology primitive by our standards. Another young race fumbling in the dark. Second speaker Mira dismissed, her form flickering with disdain. What of their military capabilities? Naira projected images of Earth's defensive systems. Rudimentary. Their most advanced weapons rely on chemical propulsion and nuclear fission. Their ships lack quantum shielding, and their AI systems are elementary at best. The council chamber filled with the crystalline equivalent of laughter, a harmonious chiming that echoed off the walls. These primitive beings, barely able to reach their own moon, posed no threat to the Meridian Collective, a civilization that had mastered quantum engineering millennia ago. I propose immediate integration, third speaker Ven stated, his form pulsing with anticipation. Their rapid development curve suggests potential value as subordinates. First speaker Alphas raised a faceted appendage for silence. And if they resist, their resistance would be insignificant, Naira reported confidently. Our preliminary analysis suggests we could overcome their entire military infrastructure within days. The council deliberated briefly before reaching unanimous agreement. The humans would be given a choice: submit to Meridian rule or face extinction. It was the same choice they had presented to countless civilizations before. 6 months later, Naira stood in the same chamber, her crystalline form cracked and dulled. The data streams behind her now showed scenes of devastating defeat. The human response to the collective's ultimatum had been unprecedented. Instead of surrendering or fighting conventionally, humanity had adapted with terrifying speed. They had reverse-engineered Meridian technology from the debris of their first skirmishes. Their quantum physicists had discovered weaknesses in Meridian shielding that had gone unnoticed for millennia. Their military strategists had developed tactics that turned the collective's technological superiority against itself. How? First speaker Alphos demanded, his form darkened with fury and fear. How did we fail to see this potential? Naira's response was interrupted by emergency broadcasts. Human forces had broken through the collective's defensive line at Proxima Centauri. Their ships, hybrid creations of human ingenuity and stolen Meridian technology, were advancing rapidly. We failed to understand a fundamental truth about humans, Naira admitted, her voice heavy with realization. They don't develop linearly like other species. They evolve exponentially, especially under pressure. Our attack didn't cripple them. It catalyzed them. The council chamber shook as distant explosions rocked the Meridian homeworld. The humans had arrived sooner than anyone had predicted, their ships appearing through quantum tunnels the collective scientists had deemed theoretically impossible. We made a mistake, first speaker Althos announced, his voice carrying the weight of history, not in challenging humanity, but in failing to recognize them as equals. Now we must face the consequences of our arrogance. As evacuation alerts echoed through the chamber, Naira reflected on her initial assessment of humanity. She had seen their primitive technology and assumed weakness. She had noted their rapid development and dismissed it as luck. She had measured them against the collective standards and found them wanting. She, like the entire collective, had failed to see that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their relentless drive to overcome, to adapt, to survive. And in threatening their existence, the Meridian Collective had awakened something that would reshape the galaxy forever. The mistake hadn't been challenging humanity. The mistake had been believing they knew what humanity was capable of. As the first human ships entered orbit, broadcasting terms of surrender, Naira realized this wasn't the end of their civilization. It was the beginning of something entirely new. Supreme Commander Lyra watched the quantum display with growing unease as reports flooded in from across Meridian space. The crystalline beings of the collective had never faced a situation like this in their 50,000 years of existence. Their defeat at Earth had been just the beginning. Human ships now moved through Meridian space with impunity, using impossible combinations of technologies that shouldn't work together. They had somehow merged Meridian quantum drives with their own crude fusion reactors, creating hybrid vessels that defied conventional physics. Worse, they were sharing their innovations with other species the collective had subjugated, sparking rebellions across a dozen systems. Status report, Lyra demanded, her crystalline form pulsing with barely contained energy. Strategic Analyst Cross approached, his usually pristine form showing stress fractures. The humans have adapted our quantum communication network to their purposes. They're coordinating faster than we can respond. Their latest attacks show signs of artificial intelligence far beyond what we observed 6 months ago. Impossible, Lyra stated. Their eye was primitive. They barely understood quantum computing. That was true, Cross agreed, projecting a series of battle recordings. But they've done something we never considered. They merged their neural networks with quantum processors, creating hybrid systems that combine human intuition with quantum processing speed. The implication sent shockwaves through Lyra's crystalline structure. The collective had always believed their quantum technology represented the peak of possible advancement. They had spent millennia refining it, perfecting it. Yet in mere months, humans had taken their technology in directions they had never imagined. Launch the Resurgence Protocol, Lyra commanded. It was a desperate gambit, one the collective had never needed before. Across Meridian space, ancient warships began emerging from quantum storage, their crystalline hulls humming with power accumulated over thousands of years. The counteroffensive began in the Proxima Centauri system. Thousands of Meridian warships materialized simultaneously, their combined quantum fields distorting space itself. It should have been an overwhelming show of force, a reminder of why the collective had ruled unopposed for so long. Instead, it became another lesson in human adaptability. The human fleet didn't attempt to match the collective's quantum superiority. Instead, they introduced chaos into the quantum field itself. Crude electromagnetic pulses, precisely timed nuclear detonations, and swarms of small, expendable drones disrupted the carefully maintained quantum coherence the Meridian ships relied upon. "They're using our strength against us," Cross observed, his voice carrying a note of reluctant admiration. "Our ships are so dependent on quantum stability that even minor disruptions cascade through our entire network." Lyra watched in horror as the massive Meridian fleet began to falter. The humans pressed their advantage, their smaller ships darting between the massive crystalline vessels like insects. But these insects carried stings that could crack Meridian hulls, using principles of resonance that the collective had dismissed as too crude for modern warfare. "Recall the fleet," Lyra ordered, her form dimming with the admission of defeat. "We need to reassess everything we thought we knew about warfare." As the surviving Meridian ships retreated into quantum space, Lyra received a transmission from the human commander. The message was brief but carried implications that would shake the collective to its core. "Your technology is impressive, but it's made you predictable. You stopped innovating because you thought you'd reached perfection. We never make that mistake. We know there's always room for improvement, always another solution to find. That's why we'll win this war, not because we're stronger, but because we never stop getting stronger." In the aftermath of the battle, Lyra called an emergency session of the Meridian High Command. The crystalline chamber was filled with the highest-ranking military minds in the collective, yet none of them had answers for the questions that plagued them. How do we fight an enemy that turns our every advantage into a weakness? One commander demanded. How do we defeat those who learn from every defeat? Lyra's response would mark a turning point in the war, though not in the way any of them expected. Perhaps, she said, her form pulsing with the radical nature of her thoughts, we've been asking the wrong question. Instead of how to defeat them, maybe we should be asking what they could teach us. The chamber erupted in crystalline discord, but Lyra stood firm. She had seen something in the humans' tactics, something that went beyond mere military strategy. They had found ways to merge seemingly incompatible technologies, to find strength in apparent weakness, to turn limitations into advantages. As the debate raged around her, Lyra received another transmission from Earth. This one contained technical specifications for a hybrid quantum chemical propulsion system, freely shared. Attached was a simple message. This is how we see the galaxy, not as something to control, but as something to explore together. Your move. The breaking point had come, but not the one either side had expected. The collective faced a choice: continue fighting a war they now knew they couldn't win, or swallow their pride and learn from those they had once dismissed as primitives. As Lyra studied the hybrid drive specifications, she realized that their greatest mistake hadn't been challenging humanity. It had been believing that superiority meant there was nothing left to learn. Chief Researcher Venna moved through her laboratory aboard the Meridian science vessel Enlightenment, her crystalline form vibrating with barely contained excitement. After months of studying human neural patterns, she had discovered something extraordinary. Display comparative analysis, she commanded. The quantum hologram filled the chamber, showing the neural activity of various species side by side. The human patterns stood out dramatically, their chaos somehow containing an underlying order that defied conventional understanding. The door chimed, admitting first observer Naira, now serving as the primary liaison with human scientists. Her once pristine form still bore the scars from the early days of the war, worn now as badges of honor rather than marks of shame. You called for me with some urgency, researcher? Naira asked, studying the displays with interest. Look at this, Venna directed, zooming in on a human neural pattern. We've been approaching human cognition from entirely the wrong perspective. We thought their mental processes were primitive because they didn't follow the crystalline clarity we prize in our own thinking. She manipulated the display, highlighting seemingly random connections in the human brain. But their apparent chaos is actually a form of quantum neural networking that we never imagined possible in organic matter. Their minds exist in a perpetual state of quantum superposition. Explain the implications, Naira requested, her form darkening with intensity. Every human brain constantly generates and evaluates multiple potential solutions simultaneously, like a living quantum computer. Under pressure, this capability intensifies. The more challenged they are, the more possibilities they can process. Venna's excitement caused her crystalline structure to chime softly. It's why they adapt so quickly, why they can make intuitive leaps that seem impossible to us. The display shifted to show human technological development curves. Look at their history. Every major advancement in human civilization came during periods of extreme stress. Wars, disasters, conflicts. These didn't hinder their progress, they accelerated it. And our attack, Naira began, realization dawning, was the equivalent of introducing unprecedented computational resources to their quantum neural network. Venna confirmed, we didn't just give them access to advanced technology. We created the perfect conditions for their minds to operate at peak efficiency. The implications stunned both Meridian scientists into silence. Their civilization had spent millennia pursuing perfect crystalline order, believing it represented the ultimate form of intelligence. Yet here was evidence that humanity's seeming chaos contained depths they had never imagined. A notification chimed, announcing the arrival of Dr. Sarah Chen, the human representative to the Joint Scientific Commission. She entered the laboratory with the casual confidence that still unsettled many Meridians, her organic unpredictability a sharp contrast to their crystalline precision. "You've figured it out, haven't you?" she asked, smiling at their surprised reactions. "Why we seem to pull solutions out of nowhere. Why we can look at your technology and immediately see applications you never considered." Vena's form pulsed with scientific curiosity. "You knew about this capability." "Not exactly," Sarah admitted. "We knew we thought differently than most species we've encountered, but we never understood the quantum aspects until we gained access to your scanning technology. The irony is, we needed your perfect crystalline sensors to understand our own beautiful chaos." She approached the display, pointing to specific neural patterns. "Every human you meet is constantly processing countless possibilities, most of them unconsciously. We don't just think outside the box. We exist outside it. Our minds naturally explore quantum possibilities that your ordered thinking wouldn't consider valid. But the implications for the future," Naira began, her scientific training warring with ancient Meridian prejudices, "are exactly why we need to work together." Sarah completed the thought. "Your order, our chaos. Your stability, our creativity. Apart, we're both limited. Together." She let the thought hang in the air. Vena found herself experiencing an unfamiliar sensation, a disruption in her usual crystalline thought patterns that felt strangely exhilarating. She was thinking like a human, allowing possibilities that her training would normally reject. "We need to present these findings to both our governments," she declared. "This isn't just about ending the war anymore. This is about the evolution of both our species." As they prepared their presentation, Vena received data from other research teams across Meridian space. Every report showed the same pattern: human neural quantum entanglement increasing under pressure, their minds literally rewriting themselves to solve each new challenge. "You know what's really interesting?" Sarah added, reviewing the data. "These patterns suggest we're only beginning to understand our own capabilities. The more we learn from you about quantum mechanics, the more our brains adapt to process quantum information consciously. We're evolving in real time." The hidden truth wasn't just that humans thought differently. It was that they represented a form of intelligence that the Meridian Collective had never imagined possible. Their greatest mistake hadn't been challenging humanity. It had been failing to recognize that intelligence could exist in forms beyond their crystalline ideals of perfection. As Vena prepared to share their discoveries, she realized that this understanding would change both civilizations forever. The question was no longer about superiority or submission. It was about what humans and Meridians could become together. Deep in the void between galaxies, the Meridian Long-Range Sensor Station Vigilance detected something impossible. First Speaker Althos stared at the readings, his crystalline form darkening with dread. The quantum signatures were unmistakable. The Void Hunters had returned. In the emergency chamber of the newly established Joint Council, humans and Meridians gathered to face an enemy that threatened both their civilizations. The room hummed with tension as Althos shared the sensor data. "The Void Hunters are an ancient species we thought we had defeated millennia ago," he explained, his voice resonating through the chamber. "They exist partly in normal space and partly in quantum vacuum, making them nearly impossible to detect or fight with conventional means." Admiral Sarah Chen, newly appointed commander of Earth's defense forces, studied the data with intense focus. "These energy patterns, they're similar to the quantum disruption fields we used against your ships during the war." "Yes," Althos acknowledged, "but on a scale we've never seen. They don't just disrupt quantum fields, they consume them. Every civilization they've encountered has fallen. Even at the height of our power, we barely drove them back." The human quantum physicist, Dr. James Rivera, leaned forward, his eyes bright with sudden inspiration. "But that was before you understood chaos dynamics. Before you had us." Supreme Commander Lyra, who had once led the Collective's forces against humanity, now stood beside Admiral Chen. "Explain." "Your civilization masters quantum order," Rivera continued, pulling up equations on the holographic display. "Ours instinctively navigates chaos. The Void Hunters exploit the gap between these states, but together, we might be able to close that gap. The next hours were a flurry of collaboration unlike anything either civilization had seen before. Human intuition and meridian precision worked in harmony, developing strategies that would have been impossible for either species alone. "We'll need to modify your quantum crystalline ships," Chen proposed, sketching out a design that made several meridian engineers vibrate with distress. "Integrate our chaos wave generators directly into their structure." "Impossible," one engineer protested. "The quantum disruption would shatter our hulls." "Not if we use the crystalline structure itself as a waveguide," Rivera countered. "Your ships won't just channel quantum energy anymore. They'll surf the boundary between order and chaos." As the preparations accelerated, the Void Hunters drew closer. Their advanced scouts had already consumed 3 uninhabited star systems, leaving nothing but quantum-dead space in their wake. The first test of the hybrid defense system took place in the Proxima Centauri system. A Void Hunter scout ship emerged from quantum space, its impossible geometry hurting human eyes and causing meridian crystals to resonate painfully. But this time, something was different. The joint fleet didn't try to match the Void Hunter's quantum disruption or resist it with pure order. Instead, they embraced both states simultaneously. Human chaos wave generators created a field of controlled instability, while meridian crystals shaped and directed that chaos with precise quantum manipulation. The Void Hunter ship, for the first time in recorded history, showed signs of confusion. Its attempt to consume the quantum energy of the defenders backfired as the Chaos Order interface created feedback loops it couldn't process. "Now," Chen commanded, and the joint fleet struck as one. Hybrid weapons fired streams of particles that existed in superposition between order and chaos, bypassing the Void Hunter's defenses entirely. The scout ship imploded, torn apart by forces it had evolved to exploit. In the aftermath of their first victory, humans and Meridians celebrated together. But their jubilation was tempered by the knowledge that this was just the beginning. The main Void Hunter fleet was still coming. "We'll need to scale up production of the hybrid ships dramatically," Lyra noted, reviewing their resources, "and train crews to operate in ways neither of our species is naturally comfortable with." "That's exactly why it will work," Chen replied with a grim smile. "The Void Hunters evolved to prey on predictability, whether that's perfect order or pure chaos. But they've never encountered a force that could wield both." First Speaker Alvos, watching the joint crews work together, reflected on how far they had come. Perhaps this was the universe's plan all along, he mused. Our conflict with humanity wasn't a mistake. It was preparation for this moment. Not just preparation, Rivera added, making final adjustments to the quantum equations. Evolution. Neither of our species could have faced this threat alone. We needed to change, to grow beyond our limitations. The war forced us to do that. As the combined fleet prepared for the greatest battle either civilization had ever faced, the truth became clear. Their greatest mistake hadn't been challenging humanity. It had been believing that difference meant incompatibility. Now those very differences might be the key to saving both their species and perhaps the galaxy itself. 1 year after the first victory against the Void Hunters, the combined fleet of humanity and the Meridian Collective gathered at the edge of known space. 5,000 hybrid ships, each a perfect fusion of human ingenuity and Meridian precision, prepared to face the main Void Hunter armada. Aboard the flagship Synthesis, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a quantum display, her neural implants interfacing directly with the ship's crystalline systems. Beside her, Supreme Commander Lyra's crystalline form pulsed in harmony with the ship's quantum core. They had come a long way from being enemies. "Final fleet status," Chen requested. "All ships report ready," Lyra responded, her consciousness merged with the quantum network that connected the entire fleet. The human Meridian hybrid crews are showing unprecedented levels of neural quantum synchronization. The transformation of both civilizations over the past year had been extraordinary. Humans had learned to extend their natural quantum neural capabilities, developing conscious control over abilities that had once been purely instinctive. Meridians had embraced controlled chaos, discovering that their crystalline forms could achieve even greater power by incorporating elements of human unpredictability. Dr. Rivera's voice came through the quantum comm. The void space sensors are detecting movement. The hunters are coming. The Void Hunter fleet emerged from quantum space like a tear in reality itself, a writhing mass of ships that existed in multiple states simultaneously. In previous eras, this sight had heralded the end of civilizations, but this time was different. All ships, execute protocol synthesis, Chen commanded. The hybrid fleet moved as one, their human crews channeling chaos while their Meridian partners shaped it with quantum precision. Each ship became a perfect blend of order and entropy, following battle plans that were simultaneously meticulously calculated and completely unpredictable. The Void Hunters struck first, launching their quantum-consuming weapons, but instead of trying to resist or evade, the hybrid fleet leaned into the attack. Human chaos generators created controlled instabilities that the Void Hunters couldn't consume, while Meridian quantum matrices redirected the energy in ways that defied conventional physics. They're adapting, Lyra observed as the Void Hunters altered their attack patterns. But so are we. This was the true power of the Human Meridian Alliance. Every second of combat generated new data, which human intuition instantly processed to create new strategies, which Meridian Precision immediately implemented with perfect efficiency. The hybrid fleet evolved faster than the Void Hunters could respond. The battle raged across multiple dimensions of spacetime, with reality itself seeming to warp around the combatants. But gradually, inevitably, the tide turned. The Void Hunters, for all their ancient power, couldn't match the unprecedented synergy of their opponents. "They're retreating," Chen announced, but her voice held no triumph. Not just retreating. They're trying to communicate. The message that came through the quantum void was unlike anything either humans or Meridians had encountered before. The Void Hunters, it seemed, had their own story to tell. They were not conquerors but refugees, fleeing from a catastrophe in their home galaxy. Their quantum-consuming nature wasn't a choice, but a necessity for survival. In that moment, both humanity and the Meridian Collective faced a choice that would define their future. They could destroy their ancient enemy, or they could attempt something even more revolutionary than their own alliance. "We offer an alternative," Chen transmitted back, after consulting with the Joint Council. "Work with us. Your quantum consumption can be controlled, channeled. Together, we might find a way for all our species to coexist and thrive." The response came not in words but in actions. The Void Hunter fleet shifted, their impossible geometry stabilizing into something new. Still alien, but no longer hostile. They had recognized in the hybrid fleet something they hadn't encountered in all their millennia of existence: the possibility of change. Years later, First Observer Nira stood before a new generation of students at the Interspecies Academy of Advanced Evolution. The chamber held young humans, their neural implants glowing softly, alongside meridian crystals that sparkled with controlled chaos, and even several Void Hunter entities, their form now a stable quantum flux. "Our greatest mistake," she told them, "wasn't challenging humanity. Our greatest mistake was believing that any species, any civilization, any way of existence was ultimate or perfect. The true power of intelligence isn't in achieving perfection, it's in never stopping our evolution." She gestured to the quantum display, showing the new collaborative projects underway across the galaxy. Hybrid technologies that merged the strengths of all three civilizations were pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The human capability for quantum neural networking had been enhanced by Meridian crystalline precision and Void Hunter dimensional manipulation, creating forms of consciousness that none of them had imagined possible. "We thought we were going to war," Naira concluded, "but we were actually taking our first steps toward transcendence. Every mistake, every conflict, every challenge was just part of our collective evolution. And that evolution is far from over." Outside the academy, The galactic core shimmered with the combined energy of three civilizations working in harmony. Their mistakes had led them not to destruction but to transformation. And in the vast darkness between the stars, new possibilities waited to be discovered by minds that were no longer limited by the boundaries of any single species' perception of perfection.